Hello and welcome back to the Dream series. I know it's been a very long time since the previous video. Frankly, I didn't know what to do with this series anymore. I don't write as many dreams as I used to, although now I'm thinking about starting again to actually write down a lot of these dreams I have, even if they're not as exciting as I would like them to be. Oftentimes, I don't remember them too well these days. I don't know, I'm not sure why. Maybe I'm not paying enough attention, concentrating enough, things like that. But this episode, essentially, there should be a title, something like Scrambled Dreams or something like that. Essentially, I'll talk about some dreams that I had somewhat recently or in the recent past that I didn't actually write down. And I'll talk out of my memory without a script. So this episode's probably gonna be a jumbled mess, a scramble of like 4 dreams, I think, that I have in mind. They're not gonna be too long because, like I said, I don't recall them completely. I recall what they were about to a degree, and I recall approximately how they ended. Some of them ended pretty like inconclusively, like cliffhangers or something. But that happens in dreams. Sometimes they cut out before the best part. Your alarm starts ringing and shit like that, you know? Shit happens. But for now, we're gonna get into the first dream, which I had actually this night. And was the main reason I actually decided to even do this. I didn't write it down because it was seriously long, and I don't recall a lot of it. But essentially it takes place... I'm gonna actually start the dream now so you know. And you feel free to not listen to this video if it's not your thing. Listening to dreams, it's not very exciting. It's just a way of me talking about my dreams. That's it. There's nothing more to it. It's not gonna be hell of entertaining unless you like can imagine shit and like to do that. Like try to imagine this and live through it with me, I suppose. That's kind of the idea. But if it's not your thing, just skip on, especially since it's the scrambled version. It's gonna be like a bunch of random shit tossed into this pot. But we'll see. So I'm gonna start with the first dream, which essentially took place in my old high school. It was a high school for like computing, I think. Technician for computing, something like that would be translation to the English. And we were in our classroom, the classroom we used for the first, I believe, 2 years. Then we moved to the completely other side of the school, to the end of the different corridor, but that doesn't matter. The classroom looked like familiar, but it seemed bigger than it used to be because there was only like 28 people there when I went to school, and there was way more seats this time. It more resembled like a college classroom, not the one with the weird stairs that looks like some kind of a Greek theater, not that shit. It was all flat, and there was just chairs and tables that weren't connected. They were separated. Two seats per each table. There was a desk, front left, where the teacher probably would be, even though for some parts of this video there was no teacher. And then there was the blackboard, of course. Blackboard and the thing you pull down, the white thing you pull down that you can then show your projector on. And that was basically it. The chairs were blue. It kind of reminded me of chairs you would see in like a train or something. They seemed like they were made with like fake leather or something. It was not that great looking. And the walls were green, which made it all look very terrible. And the green was like a very soothing green, light green. But it was still like, it looked very old. And there was even places where it was falling off. And I know the idea was apparently we were having a reunion, basically going back to the school we went and revisiting it and like seeing what other people do and I don't know what not. And there was pretty much everyone I recall, and some people I don't even recall because they were not in my class. I don't know who the fuck they were. But apparently now they were in my class. And I was sitting right next to my friend, who I still hang out with sometimes, even though he has his own life now, so it's much rarer than it used to be. But that doesn't matter. He was sitting next to me, we were talking about, I don't even recall what. When all of a sudden one of the... You couldn't even call that a school bully, he wasn't really bullying people. I would call him more like a school clown, even though I don't like offending people, even him. But he had some weird like choices of decision making, I don't know, weird decision making tactics. He was very annoying at times and obnoxious for very stupid reasons that, like, I don't understand. He was simply like that, some people are like that, you can't do anything about it. it was fine, but he started being obnoxious again and was talking to my friend about something, like insulting him and shit like that. And then my friend started insulting him back. He basically said, I have a better life. But he said it in a few sentences, so I'm not gonna like go through them. I don't even recall saying. I know he was like saying that he has a family and that he actually has a job and shit like that. And then he offended him even more by saying he has a tiny penis. Yeah, I know, very very strong joke, but apparently the ego of this person in my dream doesn't represent the real person. Of course, it's my dream. He got offended and said he was gonna beat the shit out of my friend, to which of course I didn't want that to happen. So I thought about standing up, but some of his other friends, or not friends, maybe like people who tried to understand him better or something, stood up and like stopped him, said that, don't do that. It's fucking stupid. You shouldn't just go up and beat up people for such freaking joke. And then what happened is he basically, he was let go, but he was still standing closer to us. He was in the back, sitting in the back, but we were in the front on the first bench. And he came a bit closer and started like talking shit and that. And then I said basically something on the lines of, if your ego is so fragile that you're offended by such a small joke. And then I started laughing like a maniac because a small joke, tiny dick, He got really mad about that. He wanted to really badly beat me up. So he came to me to fight me. But for some reason I was still a shit. Like, I was towering over this dude. All of a sudden, it wasn't like I was that before. And I essentially just grabbed him and just smashed him all over the place. Some of his other, not friends, but other classmates around said that we should stop. And at that moment, a person came in, who I assume was, I don't even know. It wasn't any of the teachers I remember, but it was some guy. He had a few escorts, like people with him. I don't know what to call these people. A company, something like that. And he had a Bluetooth earphone for some reason, even though we were in school. And he was like, "What the fuck's going on?" People said that we were fighting, blah blah. And he sent us to the principal's office, which was silly since we were apparently adults now, coming back to school. But this is where the shit just loses every sense of logic, because we went to the principal's office. And we were making basically excuses because we both didn't want to get in trouble. We would settle this on our own. There was no need for them to get involved. And the principal was like getting a haircut or something. It was super stupid. Even though he has barely any hair on his head to begin with. He's balding and shit. It's like, what the fuck? Doesn't matter. He essentially sent us to jail. Or more like a detention. I don't know what to call it. It's like a juvenile prison, but we were older. Doesn't make really much sense. There was a bunch of other like people that clearly looked like above the age of 18 or 21, both. So it's legal in every country, or you're an adult with age of 18 in Europe and 21 in America, I think, or something like that. Doesn't matter. We were sent there, and then there was this lady that was like writing on the billboard while we entered the place. It was also looked like a classroom, kind of like when you get sent in those movies when kids get sent to like sit in a classroom and listen to some bullshit, like some kind of a punishment. We were sent to do basically that, but this lady was talking some mad shit about philosophy and what's right and what's wrong, and I don't know what kind of bullshit. And essentially something happened, like somebody spilled water on my notebook, and I got angry about that for no reason, even though I usually probably wouldn't get that angry, and started cursing and talking some mad shit, and she sent me to jail. No, she convicted me to jail, like I was being trialed or something. It was very unusual, and I had to go to the sports gym for that, apparently. It was like some kind of a messed up game, and in the sports gym there was essentially a giant crowd of people on the stands, and after the stands, because they were all around this arena type shit. Well, it looked like just your average soccer field, but it was used as an arena. It wasn't grass, it was, what's the word for that in English? It was like floor made of wood, but it's very thin wood. I don't know what the name for that is, but essentially that was the arena. There was people around it, and there was a whole bunch of people in the dressing rooms, if you will. It's not called when you change to go to the gym. You usually have different clothes than what you wear in your school. So when you get sweaty, you just take those clothes off. And we entered, and apparently there was two different groups of people: those who were just that weren't tried to jail, and those that were going to be tried to jail. And I was one of those. And there was two different tables with some kind of a water bucket or something, which had a thing in the middle and a pointer. That then you would spin the pointer and it would go around the water somehow and stop. And what you get is what you like. The ones that didn't go to jail got advantages, and the ones that went to jail got disadvantages. And of course, I got disadvantages. Well, disadvantage, but the one I spinned. I went immediately to that table because I said, like, there's no point in waiting. I'm gonna have to roll this anyway. To the lady that trialed me, she was also there. And I spinned the wheel. It wasn't even a wheel. It was more like a weird shaped triangle. Like, not a triangle, but it wasn't. It had 3 points, but it wasn't shaped right. It was like curved. It was weird as shit. And the pointer, since there was like a one point that was going way further than it should, would slow down at this point and then gain momentum like a freaking roller coaster and go around faster, which made no fucking sense. But again, dream logic. I know I sometimes like digress like this. There's no need for me to do this anymore. Like, it's dreams. It doesn't make any sense to begin with. And the disadvantage I got was really fucking stupid. It didn't make any goddamn sense. Essentially, you had 200 minutes. That's more than 3 hours to fight. That's ridiculous. Who the fuck fights for 3 hours? And essentially, I lost 25 minutes of that. Like, that was such a weak disadvantage. There was like, other disadvantages was like lose half the time and some other shit that I don't even recall that was basically also like negligible. And I don't know what the advantages were, to be honest, but I know that it was a bigger circle. It actually looked like a circle. It didn't look like a triangle, weirdly shaped triangle. So the fights begin. I went to the dressing room when I saw the other guy who was with me. He also got sentenced, but he didn't go to jail. I had to go to jail after the fights. I don't know why the fights were even there then. Was it just for entertainment or something? He became aggressive towards me, but of course, again, other people stopped him because this was not the time to fight. Like, we were gonna fight anyway. And there was an entire, like, tournament bracket with, like, names and people. I don't recall seeing myself, but I saw a bunch of names. That's the only thing I recall. And there were some fights. People were basically fighting with weapons. Like, spears, swords. It was fucking weird. There was, like, these two that fought, and one of them had a disadvantage of losing half the time, and the other person had wings and flew up in the sky, and basically the person that was down there couldn't do shit for some time, or like suddenly platforms appeared so he can stand a chance or something. I don't know, it was weird as fuck. Didn't make much sense. The person jumped up, tried to catch the guy in the sky, but that was easier said than done. I think the guy that was flying won essentially because this guy just kept jumping and taking damage by falling down. There was another fight where someone used a shield and like a mallet or mace. What would you call it? It's mace, yes, mace. Like the spiky thing. The spiky ball on a stick. Not with the chain, but just on a stick. And the other person was using like dagger. Like a literal one dagger. But obviously the person with that mace won. Like, easy win. And there was only like a few fights till my fight. And then unfortunately everything went to shit. Suddenly I was in a gym class and running around in circles. But then the gym professor said that we should stop because now not all people were like present for this run, and he didn't want other people to miss out on this. Like, he didn't want them to think that they got lucky because they didn't have to run these 8 circles, which is, I think, mandatory, so they would have to run it anyways at some point, but whatever. And then it's basically when I woke up. Yeah, I know it's kind of a shitty dream to begin with. Like, the only thing I really liked about this dream, the reason why I'm sharing it, because it was recent, because it was long, and because I was tall as shit. It felt empowering. Like, I was so massive. Like, I can't even if I had to guess my height, I would be around 2.5 meters, maybe a bit more, and I was freaking buff. I was like seriously like a strongman type shit without the fat. Like a muscle builder, yeah. I basically described a muscle builder. And it felt really good, you know? When I tossed that guy around in the classroom, it felt like I was basically invincible, like he was just a ragdoll. I could just swing around. It was really nice. But yeah, this was dream number 1. I don't know how much excitement you can get out of that. Like I said, this is not probably gonna be that exciting or good to begin with, but I didn't do a dream series for such a long time. I still have some dreams that I made a script for that I still don't think it's good enough, but I'll upload that at some other time. But now we shall proceed with the second dream. This dream took place, I don't even fucking know where. Like, it seemed like my town, but it was all scrambled, all different than I recall. Didn't make much sense. And essentially what it was going on about, I know that we were again near a school. I don't know why so many of these dreams take place near school, but it was near my elementary school. Not that that matters. My elementary school was basically right next to the high school I went to, but that's besides the point. And this, I wasn't going to school. I was just next to that building. In that area there was a park right across the building somewhat, and I was in that park chilling, and then there was some people there. I think it was 4 of them. They were talking about some weird shit, like they were a wolf clan or something, and that they have to go to this fight against this other wolf clan that also have like some reason to fight them, like there can only be one wolf club or something as stupid as that. And what was weird about them, that they all looked weird. They didn't have like dog ears or anything like that. They didn't look like furries, but they had something weird with them. It's like their eyes were weird, more like animal-like, you know. And they looked weird, and they saw me listening to them, and then they were like that I shouldn't like get involved in such things because I'm just a human, or something along those lines, which I didn't really care about either way. So I went on my own way towards like south or something, away from the park, and I ended up on a road I've never seen before. It looked like a overpass, like it went above something, like you know, sometimes they have an overpass over the train tracks or something like that, or like a highway, but this was above a highway. It was above a train track, but there was only one track, which makes no sense. You could have just played the road. Nah, it doesn't matter. I am trying to make logic out of this. The entire overpass was see-through, and it was glowing green, like just green, the plainest green you can imagine, like grass green, like really dark grass green, but slightly lighter. I don't know how to explain it. And it had squares and rectangles in it. Like the reason I say in it, because it seemed like those squares and rectangles were sticking out a little bit, like 2 centimeters, 3 centimeters out of the actual road, which made no goddamn sense, because then when you would walk you could easily trip over them because they were everywhere, but they weren't like spaced out equally. They were just completely random. So it was really fucking stupid, and you had to walk really carefully. And while I was walking on this bridge, I saw the other group of like wolf people, or whatever the fuck they were called. Wolf club. I don't fucking know. They looked, you know, the same in terms of the eyes, but they didn't look the same in terms of people. There were some different people there. And for some reason, they didn't like me. I don't know why. Maybe I had the smell of the other people or something. I don't recall what they shouted at me, but they shouted something at me and started chasing me like real fast on all 4s. It was fucking scary as shit, even though it didn't make sense with the way it looked. But I digress. It wasn't really important how it looked. It was more of a scariness of the situation. But luckily for me, apparently I've been on this road quite some time. So I was essentially running by jumping from each square or rectangle to the next, avoiding the little gaps. And they didn't know how to do that, so they started tripping. And I managed to escape, even though they moved faster than me, for sure. But they kept tripping, so I just ran away. And ran into the other group, in the same basically place. I was a bit out of the breath, and they were like, what the fuck happened? I told them that the other group attacked me, and they said that now I'm involved somehow, and that I should join the fight, even though I should just be on the sidelines basically and help if I can, like, you know, drag someone off the battlefield or something. Well, not the battlefield, the fight. And essentially this is how the fight started. They apparently had tools. Each group had its own set of tools that they would get, and they would fight with these tools. And I was supposed to be a spectator, essentially. The guy that would slightly help one team and not do anything else. But that's not what happened. They had their tools, and they turned, like transformed into wolf people, but I wouldn't describe them, you know, like furries. When you see furries, it's like, or a werewolf. You imagine like a lot of fur and shit. It was more like Harry Potter style werewolf. Like they looked pretty much without much hair on them. Looked creepy as shit. Looked like some weird skinny rats more than wolves, if you ask me. But they had weird tools. I think on my team, one had like a weird glove that had like claws on top. There was the other guy that had some kind of a weird shield that was really wide but not very tall. So it made no sense. Like, what did he hold it the wrong way? I don't think so. But I don't recall. There was some lady that had like a staff or something. It was stupid. Didn't make much sense. The other group appeared, at least some of the other group, not all of them. Our main guy went to find their main guy apparently, and I was left there on like the side of the street. The fight took place near. It was a very wide street, but it was like a street and then it was a parking lot to the right of the street. And I was at that parking lot basically hiding behind a car. But apparently the enemy team smelled me or something, because they had good noses. They also looked creepy as fuck now. So they attacked me. But as most things that attack me in my dreams don't end up very well for the people that attack me, unless they can somehow scare me. Otherwise I'm pretty much immortal and powerful as much as I can imagine the power. Like, if I can imagine it, then it's basically gonna happen. And they attacked me with a sword and a scythe. The thing which you usually cut grass with, like tall grass. That kind of scythe. But it didn't have the additional handle that the cutting grass type has. It looked like your average gaming scythe, like you see in the video games and shit. And essentially, I kicked the guy with the sword in his stomach and took his sword. Which the other guy, of course, didn't like because these tools were given to them or whatever. And I wasn't supposed to use them, even though there was nothing stopping me from doing so. So he attacked me, but apparently that was exactly what I was waiting for, because I wanted the scythe and not the sword. So I freaking somehow swinged my sword into the scythe's like edge and basically knocked it out of his hands. And tossed the sword at the other guy who had the sword. And it stabbed him in his leg, I think. After which I turned around with the scythe and basically cut them both down. With one slice, they were both fucking dead. Right down the middle, basically. Not really, but around the, like, between the chest and the freaking area of the stomach, somewhere around there. But not straight cut, but more like a diagonal cut. I don't know how to explain it. But essentially I killed the motherfucking pieces of shit. And the scythe, it looked like a black scythe with a black top side of the blade, but the bottom side was like reddish, but not from blood. It looked like it was almost amber, like it was almost on fire, but it wasn't. It wasn't like glowing. It was simply like the color of amber. And essentially after I killed them, I empowered the scythe somehow. The scythe split. Not split, it more like it duplicated. The top part of it split. It looked like a Y now. And then it split once more, so it looked like some kind of a claw. It had like 4 sides sticking out pretty symmetrically, and each one of those had the same scythe blade. And I started flying with it to the other 2 people that were fighting. There was the freaking shield guy and the lady with the staff that were fighting 2 people, and I basically flew over them and towards the enemy. I sliced both enemies into like pieces, literally. Like they were scattered around, their limbs completely cut off. Pretty brutal, but pretty awesome as well. And then I flew back towards what was essentially their boss, their final guy, who was now appearing at the edge of the street. He was coming from the other way towards us. But I knew that as soon as I got close that I was not going to kill him with this strike, so I basically whiffed the strike on purpose so I wouldn't lose my balance or something. It was weird. And then it cut. It literally cut. And apparently now I was basically following the main guy. I was the main guy, in a sense. The main guy of our group, the one that had the glove with the claws. Which made no sense. Apparently we were all eliminated. Except for, like, me. I apparently ran away or something. I don't know. Apparently all the other Wolf Club members got eliminated and killed. So this guy, the main guy with the claw, found a pyramid. Yeah, I know, it makes total sense. And he cut the top of the pyramid, which was sticking out of the ground, because apparently the pyramid was mostly underground, and he went inside. And once he came out, I don't have a recollection of what happened in the pyramid. He had like a pyramid-shaped symbol on his glove that was three-dimensional. It looked like those little bricks that you make a pyramid out of. I mean, no, in real life they're not big, not small. They're really big, but here they looked small. It was like he had these bricks 3D out of his glove, and they were all different colors. Well, not all of them, but most of them seemed like they had different colors. And apparently each color gave him some different kind of power. It was some kind of a prophecy. The other enemy team, boss guy, had the gauntlet that also had a gauntlet. Yes, I forgot to mention that. That apparently had 6 bullets. I don't know how that works, but there were 6 bullets on the gauntlet basically sticked up to it. And for each member of his club that died, he would like get one of these bullets to glow and get additional powers, become more powerful or something. So essentially we made a big mistake of killing him, all the other ones first, not him, because he became more powerful because of that. But of course I had no idea that was going to happen, nor did I care really. And the main guy, our guy, apparently had the prophecy gauntlet or whatever the fuck, and slapped the other guy through the ground, I would say at least 30 meters down. And apparently that was it. The dude won, and somehow he resurrected with the other power of the gauntlet the rest of the other wolf club. And then I finally got back to myself, I presume. And I was just looking at them from the like 20-30 meters distance as they won. And then I was like, what the fuck am I even doing here? And I woke up. It was very weird. It was a relatively complete-ish dream. Like, it seemed complete. But at the same time, it seemed very random and unusual. Okay, that's the end of the second dream. I still have 2 dreams. Which 2 dreams did I even want to tell you? I already forgot. I remember one of them, so I'll start with that one. Oh yeah, I remember the second one as well. This is the third dream. Yay. I know you're all excited to hear this one. This dream I like to call Witch Hunt, if I had to name it. Essentially, I remember it beginning... No, actually I have 3 more dreams to tell you. Jesus Christ, this is gonna be a long video. It began in a house near my cousin's house. That doesn't mean a lot to you, but essentially it was a normal looking house, but apparently it had a very large basement area that looked like a college learning area. I know, another school. It wasn't a school though, it was a meeting. There wasn't tables, there was just chairs, a bunch of chairs, you know, like you would see in like a town hall meeting or something like that. Just a bunch of chairs and like a podium or whatever the fuck you would call that. There the one person spoke, and this person spoke about how we are unjustifiably being prosecuted and killed on sight, basically. Well, not killed on sight, more like they would kill us when they capture us. After they torture us. We were apparently like witches, but we weren't witches, we were just people with powers. Kinda like X-Men. That's the closest resemblance I have. Like people had, but yeah, like X-Men, they had powers. Not that many like physical changes to people. Most of the people looked completely normal, and so did I. I guess the powers were more like some kind of magic or something. Doesn't really matter. The person was saying like we shouldn't be fighting against the people because that just makes other people fear us more, because that's just bad. That we shouldn't just give up on our lives. That we should always run away if you get like attacked, and that this group essentially was made so if you get seen and you get like a, what's it called, a bounty on you or something like that, when people know your face, that you can essentially come to this community and they will hide you. They will basically relocate you somewhere where they won't be able to find you anymore. Something along those lines. Didn't really matter to me. The meeting was over, and I recall one of my elementary school friends being there as well. He was also apparently gifted, or whatever the fuck you want to call that. And we split up basically at my cousin's house. He was talking about that he has to go to this car, which was like on the other side of the street or something. And I continued towards my house, which is basically going... It was a main street, you know, it wasn't seriously wide. It was a 2-lane street with a sidewalk, which had also a bicycle lane for itself. It was elevated sidewalk, so it wasn't at the level of the street. And essentially there was a walking path and a bicycle path, and then there was houses on the left and the right, and where the houses were, the sidewalk went down, so basically the cars that had to pull into those houses could enter without breaking their wheels. But that's besides the point. That's just trying to like picture you a scene that it was. I was walking upwards on this street for the first like few meters, then I decided to fly. Apparently I had wings. I could spawn. They weren't on me all the time, I could just create them. And I started flying basically slightly above, like 3 meters above the street, in a car lane basically. And I was flying, and this street goes towards a hill, and then it goes down. The hill is relatively, you know, steep. It's not, I don't know how many degrees it would be, but it's relatively steep, so that if you're going climbing the hill from the other side, you do not see the other side of the hill, obviously. And I saw lights coming from the other side Like, I knew it was a car of some sorts. So, of course, since I don't want to be seen with wings, because that's not a good thing, I stopped flying and turned left onto the sidewalk and started walking. And I also had a hoodie, which I pulled over my face so that if in case it's a police, they don't see my face. And it was the police. It was a police van, one of the kind, like, it wasn't a SWAT van or anything. It was like a minibus, essentially. It looks like a van, but it's instead of like the back space being empty for luggage and shit, it has seats where other police officers can sit. But there was only 2 police officers in this one, on the front 2 seats. And for some reason, after they passed me, they stopped, to which I probably assumed they're gonna like catch me, because apparently they can force out, like somehow test you that you are afflicted by this. But apparently the test is either expensive or something, because they don't do it on everyone, or it's like very painful. I'm not sure what it was, but they started backing up towards me, and then they started turning around at this one house, like making a 180, trying to go back. And I turned left when I got to the top of the hill, because there was a road to my left. I tried to like lose them, basically lose their sight, but they quickly caught up with me because I was walking. They got out and said freeze or stop, I'm not sure what they said, and essentially gave me like a command to surrender, to stop moving, which I knew wasn't gonna happen because, well, I didn't want to die, because I knew they would realize that I had powers or whatever. So instead of that, I saw like a stairway that also went down the hill, but it was like a, what's it that called, when it goes down, then it goes left, then it goes down again. It's like a stairway that doesn't go like straight down, but it goes one way down, then you turn, then you go back down. It's like a spiral staircase, but square shaped. Well, rectangle. I don't know how to say it, but essentially there was one dude coming up the stairs, and I decided to run. So I opened my wings and started running, and jumped off these stairs towards down and started flying. And this police officer started shooting at me with guns, pistols. If I'm not wrong, it sounded like pretty like reasonably distance shots. It didn't sound like a machine gun or anything. So yeah, they shot at me, and I felt unpleasant feelings as they hit me. That's what you feel in dreams when you get pain. People say I feel pain in dreams. I've never ever felt pain in dreams. Never. If there was ever something that resembled pain, it was this unpleasant feeling. It's this unpleasant feeling you get when you get like hit by something, or I even got chainsawed once and it felt unpleasant, but it didn't feel like pain. I've never felt pain in a dream, and I don't think that's a thing. Why would you feel pain in a dream? That sounds fucked up. If you feel pain in a dream, I feel sorry for you, because that's really fucked up. But besides the point, they also shot the other guy who had nothing to do with me. Apparently they were that fucking desperate to kill me. But of course they couldn't, because each bullet they hit me with, I just basically said to myself, regenerate. And that's it. I didn't see myself regenerating or something, but I knew it worked. Because that's how dreams work. You don't have to necessarily, you just have to believe that's what happens. And I flew down the stairs and then right to the main street again. It was basically right below the hill. Like I was right below the hill and flying towards, on the main road towards my house, because my house is further down the main road. I passed 2 gas stations and I could hear the van coming up behind me, like trying to come up behind me. It was moving very fast. And then I turned left to my street. And my street is also pretty long, and after like 50 to 100 meters after you enter the street, there's several turns. There's a turn to the right, which leads to the other street. If you go forward, there's a really steep hill that leads to my house usually, and then in the middle of this hill, there's another right turn that leads to a completely different section of the city, and that's where I turned, because I knew that if I just go straight forward for my house, I was gonna get caught at my house. So I tried to like go around, and that's when I turned right, I saw another van coming behind me, in front of me, not behind me, in front of me, and I stopped because I knew that I cannot go around them. And the van that was going behind me was also catching up to me, and now there was more police officers with them. Apparently they picked them up somewhere, I don't fucking know, or it was a different van. And they all had machine guns this time, like MP5s or something. They looked small, and they had like a magazine on the front. I don't know much about guns, so that's my guess from like playing Call of Duty and shit. And it wasn't good, didn't look good for me, but To my left, there was apparently like a wooded area. There was trees. They weren't very thick, like they weren't very bunched up together. There was plenty of space between trees. And I decided that my wings weren't going to work in this space because my wingspan was way too big. So instead of that, I basically turned myself into a cat person. I don't know how to describe. I didn't see my face or anything, but my hand got really, really hairy, like with black hair. But it was not a long hair. It was very short hair, but it was very, I don't know how to describe. There wasn't very much gap between hair. It was all hair. Basically, my entire hand turned black from hair. And apparently, I had like, I don't know, animal-like feet. You know, when you have those weird bends. It's not like human knee, but like an animal back feet. I don't know what to call that. I didn't see them, but that's what I felt like. I don't know how to describe that. You just know it in a dream. And I started running through this forest, basically bouncing off the trees. Just jumping from one tree to the other tree with my legs and bouncing off of them. And they were shooting with their machine guns at me and hit me, I think, at least 10, 15 times. And again, the unpleasant feeling came back. It was really unpleasant, but I knew that I wasn't gonna die from this. I just said regenerate to myself again, and I knew I was fine. And essentially, once I passed this thicket of woods, they couldn't follow me through it, obviously, with their vans or by running because I was super fast. I jumped out of the thicket straight onto like one of my neighbor's roofs. I didn't make a lot of noise, nor did I break anything. And then I jumped into the air and basically glided with my wings to my house. That was really nearby, like it was one of my neighbors, so like 3 houses down. And I landed straight in front of like my porch or whatever you would call that. And my mom was there. She was like really worried because she saw that there was like a chase going on, that it was already like known because there was a lot of loud gunshots and shit in the area. She knew someone was getting chased because that's what usually happens when you hear this kind of shit. And she saw me and my shirt, which I now saw because I looked down. It was full of holes basically. All over the place. It was completely ruined. I had a white t-shirt. The hoodie, I don't know where I lost it, honestly. But it was not on me anymore, so yeah. It was full of holes, but I didn't have any wounds. So there was no blood. It felt like I was hit, but I simply just regenerated everything. And I said that it was alright, that I didn't leave any evidence to them, and they're not going to be able to recognize me, nor are they going to be able to find me, so we just went inside, and that's when I woke up. So essentially this was like a manhunt type situation. It was really fun. Flying, always fun to fly in the dreams, even if you're getting shot at, and the unpleasant feeling is really unpleasant. Feels like a feeling of heat combined with the feeling of like nausea in your stomach. I don't know, it's weird to describe because it didn't feel it in my stomach. I feel it where they hit me apparently. It was weird. And I still have 2 dreams to tell. Jesus Christ, this video is already 38 minutes. Alright, the next 2 dreams are a bit, I think, shorter. I don't recall what was the last one I wanted to tell you even now. But the one before that was essentially, I was at my grandparents' house, and for some reason there was a storm coming our way, but that was no normal storm, and the chances of it actually reaching us was pretty small, but it was a decay storm. Yeah, that sounds weird. It is weird. Essentially, it's a storm that doesn't have clouds, but moves like fire, you know, across everything. On the ground it moves, but instead of burning shit, it decays shit. No, it's literally a decay storm. And we were discussing whether this storm is actually going to come to us or not. I said that I will not be able to detect that unless it's like somewhat closer to us, because apparently I had powers to detect it. But whatever. My brother and my aunt had to go somewhere, so I went with them with a car because they drove in the direction of the storm because they had some business in that direction, but the storm was still very far away, so they basically took me just in case to see whether if I get closer to the storm, if I would feel it. So they left me at this intersection. They left me there, and I told them that I still don't feel that this storm is gonna come, at least not anytime soon. So they should be able to do their business, whatever the fuck they were doing in that nearby village or something. And they left me essentially there at the street, at the intersection, and I had to come back to the house. So I started running on the street, faster than most cars. This time I was running on all 4s because I apparently created like an extended front limbs with shadows or something, and I could run like a freaking animal. And once I hit the main road, that was around a kilometer further, there was these dirt bikes or like something like that along those lines, dirt bike looking things that were racing, and the road was suddenly made of like dirt. So I raced with them, and I used basically teleportation to like move in between them. The teleportation looked like literally like something from Dishonored. I used this before because it's very easy to imagine it. You basically lift your hand and then a spot appears somewhere further on the ground that looks like something, and then when you close your hand you teleport. That's how it worked for me. And basically I teleported between these spots and raced with them, and then they ended up racing through a cornfield that was already like harvested, so it was just a bunch of little stumps of corn. And they had trouble there, but I was running really fast and they were like impressed about that. But then at some point I just stopped and laid down on the ground because I said it's not smart for me to waste so much energy in case this storm actually does happen or something along those lines. And I laid in this field that was harvested. And then some kids came my way. The kids, they looked like they were average, I don't know, 9, 10, 11-year-olds, around that age. They asked me who I was, what am I doing on their field and that. And I said I'm just tired, I'm resting, that I'll leave when I'm rested. But then their grandmother showed up, and she was driving like a tractor, but she had like a wagon in the back. I don't know what else I would describe it that. Like a storage space in the back, like a trailer of some sorts. It wasn't very big, but apparently I couldn't move or something. And they placed me in this storage area alongside another kid who was apparently stung by bees or something. He didn't look that well. So they were driving us home, and I was basically healing this kid with my own energy somehow. I don't know how the fuck that works, it's a dream. And when we got to home, the kid looks perfectly normal, like nothing ever happened to him. And the grandmother, of course, thanked me, and she invited me to stay over the lunch, which I accepted too. And we were talking about like what kind of jobs I did, and they had a wall that was literally like a learning wall. I don't know what else to describe it. It had an alphabet on it. It had like basic math and shit like this on it, like they were learning on this wall. And basically they had left what they've learned there so they could remind themselves of something. I'm not entirely sure, it didn't make much sense to me, but it looked really cool, so in a way. It looked like really well made. It didn't make sense how they even reached the top of the wall. But it doesn't matter, that was a standard living room. They had a rectangular shaped desk with like 6 chairs or something. And I ate with them, and after that they asked me what I did, like I said, what I worked with. And they were talking about like what are the kids gonna go. The eldest daughter, I think she was supposed to go to college after the high school. She was in high school apparently, I couldn't tell. Yeah, and they asked me, they were talking about this college that apparently I went to, and I actually taught at that college later on as a professor of quote-unquote bio-manipulation programming and biological programming, basically using energy to change your own body and to change animals' behaviors or something. I don't know, it was weird. And I also teach energy programming, which was essentially just powers or something, magic, I don't know. It was weird. And then they were talking about like stopping, no longer growing corn on their land, which I agreed to because corn doesn't really pay well. There's way better like things you can put and they will earn more money. And we were talking about that because they needed money for the little girl, and their house was basically pretty torn down. So I wrote them down a check for like 100 grand of dollars for some reason, doesn't matter. And that's when I detected that the storm was actually gonna hit our town. So I was like, you should probably get on your tractor and leave this place right now before the storm comes. It's gonna be around in like 2 hours or something, I think I saw it. Told them that, 2 hours I think. And then I started running towards my house, but then I woke up really short after that. Like, this dream was weird, but it seemed interesting at the same time because of this decay storm. The idea of it seemed really interesting. I didn't see it, but apparently it would just decay everything. An interesting idea. You could make an entire movie out of like that idea of the decay storm or something. Maybe it even exists. I don't fucking know. And now for the final dream. I actually remembered what the fuck I was supposed to talk about. This dream was freaking weird. And it's all over the place, so I do apologize. Basically, I was at my cousin's house. I know, again, doesn't mean a lot to you, but I'll describe the house to you just so you know the layout. Essentially, the house is divided into 2 parts. And in the middle of what you would call a house, there was a big opening that had like big doors. And these doors would lead to a sort of like I would say a hallway, but it's not really a hallway. It's much wider than that. It was essentially used for like if you went to with a tractor to a field, you could pass through this basically through the house, but it wasn't a house. It was like a space between the two portions of the house, and you could pass with a tractor or a car. You could also park a car in there. Essentially, it was a pretty wide space that was used back in the day, and it was more like a farm lifestyle or something. It's not used that much anymore for that kind of shit. It's just there in between houses, and on the other side of it is a yard. But essentially, I was in this place and I was talking to that big tall lady from Village 8, Resident Evil Village, Lady Demetresk, or whatever the fuck it was. I forgot already. I did think it was something on those lines. She was apparently the lord of this mansion, and she was really cruel or something. I don't really recall what it was about. But I was apparently a servant there alongside this younger lady and some other dude. And we apparently had to defend this house against evil that came at night, which was essentially like some sort of demons or something. I didn't really know how to defend it. I had a sword. That was it. And I was patrolling the outside of the house, which for some reason had like scaffolding. How would you call that? Like the thing that looks like it's under construction on the outer side. It's like those metal pipes and planks laid. Something like that. And I heard screaming from above, which I had to investigate, of course. I was the dude. I was kind of scared, but I didn't understand what it was. And I climbed all the way to the attic area via this construction shit. And in the attic window, there was a kid, a boy, young boy, kind of a little bit chubby, I guess. And he was screaming for some fucking reason. And even when I tried to talk to him, he was still screaming at me like a maniac. And then I told him I cannot help you unless you tell me why you're screaming. And he was apparently a ghost. And he was trying to find his way to the next side, but he kept seeing all these demons roaming around or something. And the demons, by the way, I saw like one when I was looking down. It looked like basically black mist with like some kind of weird limbs. I don't know, it's weird. It didn't look like anything special. It was very generic looking shit. Looked like smoke slash shadows moving. It didn't really look like anything that threatening. And they moved slow. So essentially somehow I helped him with this sword which had some kind of a power to send spirits to the other realm. I don't know where the fuck this power came from. It doesn't really matter. I sent the skin away and then I decided to like end my patrol because I was basically done, and I jumped down the scaffolding onto the like first floor or something, and there was my room apparently. It looked like a generic room, a bed, a freaking closet, and it had a weird purplish wall paint, but I didn't really care. I went downstairs and then I met up with the other servant lady who said something of the lines that she was going to teach me how to actually use some kind of a power which was used in this, I guess, universe. And it was the power of pain. Not the Naruto character, pain, actual pain. Essentially, you would use this power to grow wings. But not wings that were actual physical wings or like created wings. It was wings on your back that looked like some kind of a weird tattoo. So it wasn't like going out of your back, it was literally on your back like a tattoo. And she showed me hers by lifting her shirt, showed me her back. I know, really sexy or whatever. You can get your fantasies out of her. Her wings were really big, like they were all across her back from one side to the other, even going to her shoulders. It looked like a scar. It looked like some kind of a scar, like weirdly shaped scar, like from lightning maybe. Like, you know, there's some, we can find pictures of lightning scars. It kind of looked like that, but kind of looked like between that and a burnt scar. Relatively fresh burnt scar. I don't know, it looked weird. But apparently she had really like wide wings, which impressed me for some reason because I didn't even have wings. And she taught me how to like use pain to inflict these wings upon myself. And the more pain I inflict upon myself, the bigger the wings will become. And I'll be able to use more of this power. And then there was something about going outside and trying this out after she taught me. And I grew some wings that weren't apparently that impressive, but she said I still have time to grow or something. I don't know, fucking weird. We went out, killed a couple of these shadow demons with just freaking light or something. It looked weird. It didn't really look like light. It looked more like, not even like sunlight. It looked like you took a lamp and then just shined it into one place and then the demon was gone. It was odd, and I know I was, after that, like kneeling in front of that big tall lady, like with this other chick, like reporting something, and then I woke up. And that's essentially it. That's the dream. I like this dream mostly because the wings that scar thing looked really fucking cool. I don't know how to describe it. Kind of looked like phoenix wings or something like that. Like a really colorful wings that also looked like they were made out of pain and scar tissue. I don't know how to describe it. It's odd. You can try to imagine it, I suppose. Okay, this video is 50 minutes fucking long. Okay, that's very fucking long. This was essentially the scramble episode. Like I said, it was all over the place. The dreams were not very complete. Most of them just end abruptly or end in the middle of action. I don't know. It's very odd how sometimes dreams like... And the way I talked about these dreams was actually connecting them. Not connecting the dreams in between, but within the dreams I was connecting shit. I even like let out some things from the dreams because it didn't make any fucking sense in between, so it's just like, why would I even talk about it? It's irrelevant. I just try to piece together like a main plot story of a dream. That's what I try to do with all the dreams I have, just piece the main story while ignoring the other random shit that happens that makes no sense and just simply would be weird to even talk about. But thank you if you managed to live through all of this, if you haven't died of boredom, haven't died of like, I don't know, cringe or something. Congratulations. Like I'll give you a smooch or something, I don't know. But for now, this was it for this dream episode. I'll have more dream episodes probably coming at some point alongside this episode, because now I won't have that much time to record games because the college will start, but talking about dreams doesn't take that much time. Usually it's like a 20-minute episode, and then I just have to play the Ultimate Fishing Simulator for another 20 minutes. So it's less than recording an actual game because that I spent hours and hours on it. But yeah, thank you for watching the episode number 3, which was the Scramble episode, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.